Hello, everybody. This is Matt Harrington with Marketing Vermont. You're listening to an exclusive podcast feature of our Marketing Vermont platform. As we've talked about, every now and then we're going to do podcasts where we interview change makers, change agents, people that are doing it right in the industry. And so we have none other than the Commissioner of Tourism and Marketing for the state of Vermont, Wendy Knight.
Good afternoon, Matt. Good afternoon, listeners.
Wendy, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. We've had a good partnership, just even working, wearing my chamber hat, but I also think that you've just done some real revolutionary things in the industry. And so, some of our audience members are small business people that want to hear what maybe is the cutting edge of marketing or even what their own tourism department's doing. But also we have other audience members that are in different states or possibly in even different departments in different states that we'd love you to share some of your insights, some of your tried and true and practiced things that have worked, maybe even things that haven't worked, to give some of our audience some guidance on that.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. So one of the things we know that seems to be universally true in a lot of state agencies is that there's little money, right? So Vermont Department of Tourism and Marketing, we have a $3 million tourism marketing budget. That is the second smallest tourism marketing budget in the country. Most tourism marketing budgets are 15 to 18 million. And I hear this from a lot of other types of agencies. So if you are working in a nonprofit organization or a small business or a government agency, you tend to have smaller budgets, and so you really need to be creative and innovative with what you do with those small budgets. And
Absolutely, and we're going to talk a lot about that, Wendy, just in the efforts that you've done in the last 2 years that you've been in the position. So rewind a little bit. Give us a background of what VTTM, or Vermont Department of Tourism and Marketing, actually does for the state of Vermont, kind of what's within your control, and what are some of the projects you've been working on.
Sure. So what we do is we are basically the internal in-house marketing agency for the state. So our job is to market the state of Vermont as a tourism destination, but also as a place for employees, workers, and entrepreneurs and businesses to come. So our mission is not just marketing to the traveler, but it's marketing to people who might want to live here as well. Within the Vermont Department of Tourism and Marketing, we have a small team of very, very talented, highly skilled communicators and marketers. So this isn't your typical state government agency or organization. We have very skilled people that come from the private sector that understand how to market. So we're a team of 8.5 people, including myself, and the gamut of marketing runs from digital advertising, social media marketing, email marketing. We do a lot more video now. We do travel and trade shows, and I can walk you through the details of that. We work really closely with our counterpart department, the Department of Economic Development, on the Think Vermont economic development initiatives, which are designed to let people outside of Vermont know that Vermont isn't just a place to come and tour the museums and sample the craft beer and go skiing, but it is a place to consider working, living, and setting up a business.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've really built that team up of multi-capable talent, and so it's not that even just one social media person, although that might be their spearhead or what they're focusing on, but really that they have to come with a whole broad array of kind of marketing knowledge for the many, many platforms that you're on.
Exactly. So if you think about a marketing campaign and you think about marketing the state as a tourism destination, the website, vermontvacation.com, is the anchor of that digital marketing. And so everything we do tries to draw people to that website to give them resources for either planning a trip or being inspired for a trip, or when they're here, thinking about things that they want to do while they're here. And so we have our email marketing drives people to the website. So we have a consumer newsletter that goes out to 125,000 people, and it's sort of designed to showcase, okay, here's a snapshot, come to the website to read more information. Mm-hmm. Our social media platforms have grown significantly in the last, couple of years. Obviously, people are making decisions based on what their peers and their family are recommending, so we're seeing social media play a much more important role in terms of marketing Vermont as a destination. One, because Vermont's so visually appealing, right? So Instagram, for example, you can put the beautiful photos on there. More and more we're using video, which are very engaging. A lot of people like to watch the 15-second interviews that we do that showcase the state, they showcase the makers of the state. And so we're seeing that people are drawn to those channels, whether mostly it's Instagram, but it's YouTube as well, a little bit of Facebook. They get inspired, they come to the website for more information.
And in a way, in a revolutionary way with marketing, I don't want to say easier, but isn't it great when your mom or your friend or your buddy from college is the brand ambassador? Rather than that old advertising company that used to do it eons ago. So in a way, we've had this nice little coming back to what marketing was all about, which was sharing the good narrative, sharing the story of something that you might want to experience, and mom, dad, brother, sister, cousin are now leading the charge on that because they're resharing it on Facebook or taking a picture on Instagram.
Exactly. And then you have what's called influencers, right? So you have the blurring of a journalist or a blogger and an influencer, and we use all of them. I mean, there are very different distinctions between a professional writer that's writing for the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. We work a lot with the media as well. So we want to let the journalists know of the things that are new and interesting about Vermont so that they can write their stories. Because to your point, if you are getting information from social media or you're getting information from an article, that's much more impactful from a consumer perspective than reading an ad and clicking on an ad. In the heyday of, years ago, right, we used to do print advertising, and that was a way for brands to let their consumers know about the brand. Well, we do very little print advertising these days, one, because we find that digital marketing and digital advertising is much more effective. If someone sees a print ad, you have no way of knowing whether that's drawing them or directing them to come to Vermont.
Great. Well, so part of the Scott administration, you've been on here for about 2.5 years. Come from the private sector. You've been doing PR and marketing in your previous life. What has been maybe the most surprising when you're dealing with the scale of Vermont brand, and maybe what has been most challenging?
Okay, so Vermont has an incredibly iconic brand, and so one of the things that I realize is how much people know about Vermont, for example, and how much whether they haven't been here themselves, what they hear about Vermont, what they hear from others, what they see, the films that are shown here, the skiing, they're really excited about Vermont. One of the things that I found really interesting in the State to Stay, we'll talk about the survey of the people who were finding out about the State to Stay weekend or coming to the State to Stay weekend is 31% of them had never set foot in Vermont. So this iconic brand is really strong. Coming from the private sector to the public sector, of course, has its challenges, right? Yeah. So, as you mentioned, I had my own. I've worked for myself either as a journalist or a marketing executive or a communicator, and so you're basically coming in as an entrepreneur where you kind of make your own decisions and you work with your clients to a very structured state government kind of bureaucratic organization. I will say the one thing that I found surprising is how within our department we are very innovative, and how much freedom I have to work with our team, the 8.5 people including me, to create really innovative ideas like the State to Stay program and really pursue innovative marketing strategies. So we operate in a very innovative environment, and I've actually been surprised by that.
You mentioned State to Stay. We're a partner with you in that, but just for our audience, big 100,000 foot view of what the State to Stay is, and then you and I were just talking before, just not only the benefit, the finalized benefit of having people move here because of the program, but even the earned media of something like that. So talk to us a little bit about State to Stay and just kind of the good ramifications of the earned media on it.
Exactly. So one of the things we talked about earlier was the Think Vermont Economic Development and Marketing Initiative. So one of the number one priorities of this governor, Governor Scott, is to grow the economy and grow our tax base. We have a demographic challenge where we have an aging population, a declining birth rate, and a shrinking workforce. We desperately need workers in Vermont. And we need those workers to bring families, to put people in school, and to grow our tax base. So when I look at our visitors, we have 13 million visitors that come to Vermont every year. We already know throughout the years that people come to Vermont, they come to ski, or they come to a wedding, and they really like it. They're really excited about the quality of life and the good schools and just how peaceful it is, access to outdoor recreation. So we know that organically people come to Vermont as visitors, and then they decide to move here or buy a second home or bring their business up here. So what we decided to do is create a specific program for those people who might be interested in Vermont and living here and working here. And so rather than create a ski weekend for 3 days or a romance weekend, we created this stay weekend that starts off with a Friday welcome reception where we bring the community out. You know this, you organize it. So realtors come and people from the school and employers and community leaders to come out to welcome the guests that come in. On that Friday night, we have a welcome bag. It's just like a big welcome reception for these folks, that they can meet the people in those communities that are going to then help them live here and relocate here, whether it's finding a housing, finding a job, finding out what the child care is and what to do. And then Saturday and Sunday, they kind of explore on their own. They might, arrange to meet with a realtor. They might go skiing. They might just go antiquing or whatever they want to do. And then Monday, that's where they have job interviews and they meet with employers. They, again, have an effort to go around with a realtor, or they'll go visit a co-making or a generator space or a co-making space, co-worker space. Because a lot of people that live in Vermont don't necessarily want or need jobs. There's this entrepreneurial sort of sector, and we want to make sure that we're showcasing how Vermont can be for workers that are remote workers. And so last year, one of the things that pretty much everyone in the country heard about was Vermont's remote worker incentive program. Where
$10,000, yep.
Exactly. The state would pay up to $10,000 over the course of 2 years for people who could work remotely and chose to work in Vermont. And we have another initiative coming out. The governor will sign the bill this week. It'll start in January. That's meant to incentivize people to take Vermont jobs. So you want to live in Vermont, Southwestern Medical Center has a job opening. This might help you with those relocation costs because it's expensive to move.
Sure. It sounds a lot like necessity breeds innovation, and Vermont is in need of people, businesses, innovation, and so in and among that, State of Stay kind of came into your head one weekend.
Yes.
You presented it to the governor. Governor signed off on it. Last year was the pilot program. Talk to us a little bit maybe about the results, and then, as I mentioned before, just the earned media, just the NBC Nightly News,
Washington
Post, NPR. Talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing even in 1 year of its infancy, and also the media benefit.
So, as you mentioned, the pilot program was 2018. We had 4 distinct weekends, and we started in 3 specific communities. Bennington being one, Brattleboro, and then Rutland. And these communities were selected for obvious reasons. One, we had a really strong local partner like the Chamber that was willing to work with us and be the boots on the ground for the program. And then we had to have employers that were hiring, and we needed a co-making or co-worker space. So those bases were covered. It really sort of very much grew organically. The very first weekend we had just announced it, the governor had just announced it, so we only had a handful of people that showed up. As we started getting the earned media, the national media attention, we started to see that each subsequent weekend had more enrollment. And what we found out from the program is these are very qualified leads. These are people that are very motivated to move to Vermont. You met them. They had specific questions. They wanted to go meet with people in certain sectors.
It reminds me of a very good funnel, in the sense that just the program that earned, and then even in the beginning, really putting some marketing dollars from your agency into digital and social. They pop into the funnel, they fill out that form, they're in the middle of the funnel, they're getting contacted by me, they have a decision and a call to action to make, which is where are you putting your lodging, where are you staying this weekend, and really committing to the weekend. they come for a weekend, they get inundated with great community members, whether that be also employers, real estate, having some time to just kind of breathe in the Vermont air, but also really some structured nights on Friday. And then for us in Bennington, we do a Monday morning coffee. And you can almost visualize kind of that funnel working like you would through a marketing campaign, but this is marketing / relocation / changing your life and moving to Vermont. And so it's very fascinating within one weekend and really within one click of a button to a form field, to us generating that lead, to a weekend. A lot of these people are making that decision even
fairly
after
quickly.
The weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So unlike a decision to plan a vacation, which might be a week lead time or 3 weeks lead time, when we're marketing Vermont as a place to live and work, that's a very big ask. There's a lot of components that go into that. It's finding a job, it's finding housing, it's your spouse finding a job, it's childcare. So it's a much more complex task. One of the things I was really pleasantly surprised about is how many people have already moved to Vermont as a result of attending a stay-to-stay weekend. So one of the great examples is a woman that attended one of the very first Bennington stay-to-stay weekends. She literally had job interviews lined up before she left. She was offered a job, went home a day later after the weekend on a Tuesday, resigned, and literally a month later she was here. Yep. So again, these are very highly motivated people to move here. So one of the things I think that we've been able to do in Vermont is position ourselves as being innovators in talent attraction. And what we have done, we coined this stay-to-stay program economic development tourism. And so we see that tourists are actually a really viable pool of people who might want to consider living here. One, they love it. They come back a lot, come back year after year. They understand the weather. They like the skiing. So they already, check the box of being okay with the weather and liking it. And so what we've seen is that of the first 4 pilot weekends, 140 people were officially registered and came and attended them. We had 10 of those folks already have moved here. Another 36 are actually contemplating, job hunting and house hunting, actively planning to move here. Not just considering it. So that tells us that we're really onto something. We've seen, again, as the national media attention has consistently grown, we've seen the membership, the participation in the weekend. So for example, 2019 so far, we have close to 300 people that have signed up to come to these weekends. Yeah,
we've already 50% or 100% better than the first year, which is great. And I think it was just really brilliant of you. We really framed it up. Remember, we would joke about calling it the pilot of the pilot, just to not get anybody's hopes up, but really it just kind of snowballed into success, and we're only in year 2, so I'm very excited about continuing that program and just maybe coming back and reporting on that in year 3. Let's go down a micro level. We've got a lot of small businesses in Vermont. A lot of them are trying to reimagine not only their brand to compete in the 21st century, reimagine their marketing to compete with everything from Airbnb to Amazon to everything else, Walmart. What would you say to that small business person, 1 to 2 to maybe 10 people in their shop, that they should be focusing on, maybe from a strategic level, maybe it's a platform you're liking right now, in the next 6 to 18 months that you say, hey, this is where I think small businesses need to be spending some time?
So 3 things I think work especially well for small businesses. 1, social media. Now there are all kinds of social media platforms. You just need to figure out the 1 or the 2 that work well for you. So if you're a florist, for example, you might decide that you want to be on Instagram because it's so visually appealing. If you're a tech company, necessarily you don't want to be on Instagram because Instagram is photos and videos. So you need to do a little research to figure out, is it Twitter, is it Facebook, is it Instagram, is it Pinterest, is it YouTube? Find the 1 or the 2 social media platforms where your audience, you know your target audience, who are the people that are shopping or buying from you or hiring your services. And then you need to figure out, well, who is the audience you want to be buying your services, your goods and services, and then figuring out that audience where they are online, because everybody is online. Mm-hmm. And then spend some effort focused on some social media. You have to put some dollars behind it. The way they set up these social media platforms and the algorithms, it cannot be done organically alone, meaning you can't just post stuff, put an article on Twitter, put something on Facebook, and people will find you. That's not the case, especially if you're a business. You actually have to put some advertising. It doesn't cost a lot. It's really a fundamental tool for a small business. The other thing I would do is email marketing. You have a group of people that are your customer base. You can create an email newsletter that's short, that's informative, that's educational. Give them some good content that they want to then open and look at, whether it's video. And so you can really grow your email marketing by offering exclusive content. If you're signing up, you've already subscribed to your email newsletter, you get, $5 off on Wednesday for your flower bouquet or whatever it is. So you give them some exclusive content and some behind the scenes or some extra tips or, whatever it is. That's really very effective for small businesses. And then the other thing I would say is incentives. We see this working with the state, right? The state has incentivized people to consider moving to Vermont. Totally works. It works from a perspective from earned media because, wow, Vermont's going to pay you $10,000 if you move here. Not really. That's not really true, but the incentives do work. People are getting reimbursements to relocate here. Mm-hmm. Same thing you can do if you're a small business. You can incentivize your employees to refer people to come to your shop. You can incentivize them by partnering with other businesses, and this is some of the things that we talk about in the tourism space is you have to work together. And so I always encourage small business to collaborate with other small businesses. Okay. So if you're that floral, designer and you own a floral business, partner with the restaurant and, you can display your bouquets there, and you could offer as a sign up to your newsletter, 2-for-1 dinner or whatever it is.
Great. Anything we didn't talk about? I mean, obviously we did, but we don't want to waste all of Wendy Knight's insights and just in this first podcast that we have with her. Obviously, we'll continue to have you back as you're such a strong player in the state of Vermont. Part of this marketing podcast is really just in alignment with a lot of the things that you and I work on closely together. So we absolutely want to have you back. But anything we didn't touch upon as we kind of wind down the podcast that you think the audience needs to know?
Well, I just think it's important to not be afraid to try new ideas, to not be afraid, to try something innovative, to be brave enough,
a little bullish,
yeah, and just to really kind of allow your team to bring new ideas to the table and think differently, and not just do things the way you've always done them. It might not be working, and really sort of evaluate. So to allow the team to be creative.
Perfect. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for joining us on our marketing podcast. Safe trip back upstate, and for sure we will have you back on the show.
Thank you, Matt.